So we are all talking about getting ready for the holidays and how to avoid putting your foot in your mouth, but not the turkey, am I right? Okay, during a festive feast, experts say that the question, what do you do, can be an innocent icebreaker. But it comes with sort of a built-in judgment. This may also be a sore subject for many during the holidays. And your answer can misbrand you, plus turn casual conversation into unwelcomed networking. So, DBL Nation, is the question, what do you do, rude or not?
Okay, James from Facebook says, I do think an unofficial hierarchy is established when that question is asked. I think, who are you is a better question. And yeah, I agree. I kind of get annoyed when people say, what do you do? Or when I ask people, what do you do? Because sometimes the conversation can elevate or be more surface than that. So I just kind of rather have casual conversations. How are you doing? What's new? Rather than what do you do? Because sometimes people's job don't actually make them. They just do it
but if you're just meeting the person, you can't say kind of how are you?
Well, I mean, people would ask me
what's your
first date, like, what do you do? To me, that was an awkward question when I went to LA.
Yeah.
To be like, why? You know, for me, that didn't make sense. But that's the only time I could think about having those new conversations, I guess, with friends.
It is a bit, I find it a bit aggressive, too.
Just someone asking what you do?
No, but if you're, yeah, because nowadays I had a lot of, well, I'll go ahead.
Let's see what Julie has to say about this. Julie from Facebook says, no, everyone does something, even if it's playing video games in a sparkly tutu. That's doing something. If you can't talk about what you do, then maybe stop doing it.
Maybe you work for the CIA. Maybe you can't talk about it.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be at that party if you work for the CIA, no?
That's maybe you just don't want to tell people what you do.
But maybe asking someone what you do is like in a day and age where people are like, no one's talking to me, no one's being friendly, and someone's having a conversation starter. Like, I don't understand why you get in trouble for asking someone what you do.
I don't think you get in trouble, but I think there's better questions to be asked that don't put someone on the defensive a bit.
So there's like a list of like, what's a good question, what's a bad question when starting a
we can always make conversation a better and more elevated experience.
Wow, that Michigan education just popped in just now.
But I don't know if that works for your first conversation ever.
Neither does what do you do? What is that?
It's supposed to, like, whatever they say, you're supposed to say, oh, I used to work there. Oh, I used to live in like things to kind of start to
where are you from? What do you do? Go ahead. I keep
your second one was, what do you do?
What about if you're in an Uber and they ask, what do you do? And then all of a sudden they start pitching you materials. That happened to me at least 3 times in LA. So that's why I stopped telling people what I do.
Thank you. All right, I'm on board. All right, Gabriel from Facebook says, I find a better icebreaker to be, what do you enjoy doing, or what inspires you, or at least start with that before talking business. I'm sorry, Gabriel. Somebody asked me what inspires me at Thanksgiving. I'd be like, eventually unbuckling my belt. I don't want to do this. I don't want to have a Maya Angelou moment at the dinner table. I just want to have a little pleasant conversation.
Well, listen to what Mike says from Facebook. He says, it's not necessarily rude, but it's often inappropriate. I have relatives and people I've known for a long time who never ask me that question. Let me tell you something. I'm friends with a ton of artists, and some of them are out of work, and especially over the holidays, it's super sensitive. And it's just not a great thing to say, oh, I do this, blah, blah. Then it starts off in a weird way. I think it's nicer to say, like someone just wrote in, where do you work, would be a nice.
But then if they don't work, then that's way worse. You'd be like, oh, I work at home.
I just hate the idea of family time turning into networking time. Yeah. That's my biggest problem.
But what's wrong with asking, if you're asking an artist, what do you do? I'm an artist.
Yeah.
Like, an artist doesn't need like a job,
it's just hard for people in a gig economy to be like, I right now do Uber. That's sometimes hard for people to say.
Yeah, everybody doesn't have a cool, like, everybody can't be Tory and be like, hey, I work for Street Fighter. You know, it's like, which one's the hardest character to fight?
That good?
You look like Chung Lee. Yes.
Oh, man.
She does.
I totally do. Thank you. That was a compliment.